Some interesting facts about Santa to consider. First, his name is spelled with the exact same letters that spell Satan. Coincidence?
This is a guy named Rick Scarborough. He's a pastor, a televangelist, megachurch pastor, the whole 9 yards. Now, he's in the process of attempting to take over school boards at this immediate moment. So I felt compelled to talk about who he is, what he believes, some of the messed up stuff he's said, and kind of lay out his plan for what he intends to do with the school boards and how he intends to take them over. This one is bound to be interesting. Trust me on that. Listen to the rest of this. This is actually from late December 2020. He was railing against Christmas. Oh my God, this guy hates Christmas. He's the biggest Grinch alive.
Coincidence? Perhaps. Except I do not believe that anything with God is accidental or coincidental. Perhaps you're thinking, well, preacher, you're way up too tight about this. Well,
yeah, I would say so, a little bit.
Yes, well, just continue to listen and let's think it through. Secondly, Santa is given all the attributes of God. He is omniscient. He knows everything that every child is doing. He's omnipresent, allowing him to be in every store simultaneously around the world in a single night.
Every store? Did he mean every child's home? Yeah, I'll give you this. Santa's supposed to have special powers to do this or that, but guess what? It's just fun, man. Why are you coming in and trying to wreck everybody's fun and enjoyment? Come on.
And he's omnipotent. There's no toy that he cannot create and provide out of thin air if he decides the child is worthy of it. The only problem with this is it's all a lie. And that allows for a transition to the most indicting part of the Santa myth. The entire case for Santa is built upon a works foundation.
Okay, so this I found particularly interesting. If you're not familiar with this kind of battle within religious circles, there's a battle taking place between religions or denominations of Christianity that believe the Bible endorses a works-based system and those that believe it endorses a faith-based system. So there are two different verses in the Bible. One says, faith without works is dead. You must knock on doors and spread the word in Jehovah's Witnesses' case. Or you must not sin. Or you must confess your sins to God in time before you die or you won't make it to heaven. That kind of thing. You have to actually take actions other than getting baptized or born again or whatever to be saved by God. That's the works-based system. The faith-based system is one where you just get baptized, you get born again, and that's it. The verse that justifies this position is in James, I think. It basically says, man is saved through grace and grace alone, so no man can boast about his good deeds, or something to that effect. And the problem is, usually when there's this conflict in the Bible, preachers will take the latest thing, the latest verse, the one written most recently as canon, because they think, I guess God changed his mind and set the record straight or something. Who knows how they justify that. Only those two verses were written at the exact same time. There is no time difference between them. So there's a huge battle between faith-based and works-based systems. Now, this guy is apparently all for a faith-based system, not a works-based system. Listen to that little line he said one more time.
The entire case for Santa is built upon a works foundation. He's keeping a list of who's naughty and nice, and he checks it twice.
This guy's so cringy. That sounds like capitalism, right? You work for the things that you earn. You don't just get to sit on your ass and collect things for free without a payment or a consequence of some sort. This guy sounds like he's a communist or a socialist to me. I should probably say right here I'm joking. I don't want it to be misconstrued or anything. Just ridiculous, dude. He's a hardcore, deep Republican, too. Oh, my God. You can hear this guy screaming about communism from a mile away. Well, let me give you a clearer idea of the things that this guy believes. Because, again, he's trying to take over school boards right now. He's going to lay out his plan for taking over school boards in a few minutes, and we're going to listen to some of that. But let's establish what he believes first. Number one, he hates Santa. Also, before we listen to this, he's about to talk about something called grids. This is the evangelical version of AIDS. It stands for gay-related immunodeficiency or something like that. It's just a homophobic, hateful phrase for AIDS or HIV. It was never used in the scientific community at any point, to my knowledge. Yes, it did affect, AIDS affected the gay community more heavily than any other, but it affected everybody, actually. Unfortunately, people like Rick Scarborough, like the guy we're listening to right now, believe that AIDS was God's judgment on mankind for sinning. Listen to this.
The AIDS epidemic was still being called GRIDS in 1992, and I had been researching that new epidemic because I believed, as I do today, and rest assured, if I'm being monitored, as I often am when I speak.
No way. You stand on a public platform and say things to an audience and you're surprised you're being monitored?
This is the only thing they'll carry on the website, People for the American Way, from this speech.
People for the American Way is a nonprofit that follows people like this. Right Wing Watch is actually a subsidiary or like an offshoot of it or whatever. That's who he's talking about, Right Wing Watch.
This speech. I believe that GRIDS was God's judgment on a sinful generation. I don't apologize for that. Is it an unforgivable sin? Of course not. In fact, I believe God would probably give us the cure for AIDS today if we put our foot down and said, we no longer tolerate this. We're not going to fund it with health care. We're going to hold you accountable. I believe if we started repenting across this country, some sharp, probably Christian or Jewish researcher would find the AIDS cure. God's God.
By the way, you see a lot of cuts in here. I didn't cut anything out. I just cut out dead silence because I didn't want, all that dead silence in there. So you're not missing any actual words here. That's disgusting, dude. This guy is straight up saying AIDS is God's judgment on America. And if we repented for being accepting of the LGBT community, then God would release the cure. And of course, the good Christians or Jews, apparently those are the only two scientists that are allowed to discover anything of interest. Some Christian or Jewish, scientist would, I'm sure in his mind, withhold the cure from the LGBT community because it's supposed to go to good Christians, right? Absolutely grotesque, man.
Cure. God's a God of grace. They may find it anyway. But you know what? Be not deceived. God isn't mocked. Whatever man sows, he's going to reap.
Just disgusting, dude. Does it get more depraved than this? This is all the way in 2015, okay? I knew preachers were saying this back in the 90s and early 2000s. But to believe this and say it so openly from a pulpit in 2015... This is just depraved stuff, man. Straight up depraved stuff. Unfortunately, it gets worse. This is his brand new video. Mid-February 2023 is when this came out. Look at just this screen right here. Save our schools, save our children. Make a difference in your community. You know where this is going to start. This is going to begin with fear-mongering garbage about people coming after our children.
Just look around. Perverted teachers have infiltrated our public schools and are brainwashing our children with critical race theory, lies about America, filling their young minds with hatred for their country.
It was completely made up. Nobody is filling anybody's anything with hatred of the country. Nobody is, quote-unquote, infiltrating anything. Infiltration implies intent, like they're trying to get in there to ruin things intentionally just because they don't like America or something. This is like new levels of delusion right here.
These teachers are also normalizing immoral and abnormal sex, sexualizing our children with pornographic materials. These godless educrats who rule the Texas education system are teaching our children that what God has told us about morality and gender is all wrong. Our children are being groomed by homosexuals and the trans perverts to be recruited into their evil lifestyles.
This is obviously all completely made up, and you notice the use of the word groomed there. In my opinion, that word is the new F word for gay people. I honestly think that, it's being used as a slur here. I honestly don't think anybody should be using it. Unfortunately, people like Rick Scarborough, Pastor Rick Scarborough, are currently right now using it, so we have to use it to refer back to what he's saying and things. But I'm hoping that in 10, 15 years, that word is going to be just as much of a slur as the F word is for gay people right now.
These children, starting in pre-K, are being taught that evil is good and good is evil.
Are these books even real? Did he make any of these? I've never heard of any of these books. And being gay, by the way, is not sexualizing anything. It's not about sexuality. When you see a movie with a little boy and a little girl, and the little boy writes the little girl a love note, say 8 years old each, and the little girl says, "Oh yes, I will be your girlfriend," and kisses him on the cheek or whatever, is that sexualizing kids? Of course not. That's just portraying a normal relationship. It's portraying normal human interactions. The only reason that they view this as, sexualizing or whatever, when when they portray a kid as being gay, is because they're absolutely obsessed with hating homosexuality or hating gay people or whatever. That's it. That's all there is to it. They're obsessed with hating this. Again, are these books even real? The Gay BCs? I gotta look this up. I mean, when was this even written? 2021 apparently is when it was published. The perfect way to teach your kiddos LGBT vocab while celebrating the beauty of embracing yourself and others. Now in board book format, a joyful alphabet book of LGBTQ vocabulary for kids of all ages. A playdate extravaganza transforms into a joyful celebration of friendship, love, and identity as 4 young friends sashay out all of the closets, dress up in the wardrobe fit for kings and queens, and discover the wonders of their imagination. The Gay BCs, Webb's playful illustrations and lively poems delight in the beauty of embracing one's truest self. From A is for arrow and ace, to F is for family, to T is for trans. So it sounds like it's the kind of book that somebody would get for a kid who just came out as gay, or who has a friend that came out as gay. And it helps people, come together and learn who they are and learn the vocabulary, basically. It doesn't sound to me like it's for 3-year-olds. It sounds like it's for, 8 to 10-year-olds who are unfamiliar with the vocabulary that's commonly used. And this guy is absolutely melting down and calling them perverts and groomers and all this other stuff, simply because they want to be more inclusive and find ways to connect with their friends better. I mean, I don't know what any of this stuff is. It's all really weird. It's depicted in an odd way. I'm probably going to have to cut some of this out. It may be inappropriate, but where's any of this even from? Like, is this even for children, any of this? This is all confusing and weird. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Good is evil, but they're not being taught how to read, write, or learn math proficiently. Now, wicked drag queens are being given access to perform for our children in public schools and libraries.
Okay, drag queens are not trans people, FYI. This is pure theater. It's just theater. That's it. He seems to have some bizarre fixation on drag queens and honestly on the trans community and the LGBT community more generally. Like, why can't you just let people live their lives? They're not forcing your kid to go to any of these events. Why do you care? Kids start exploring relationships with other kids at 8 years old or something like that. Why is it such a problem if an 8-year-old kid discovers that he really likes hanging around the boys instead of the girls, or vice versa? Why is that any of your business? What is your obsession with this? Unfortunately, this guy's had an obsession with it since the 90s. He is absolutely dead set on making sure the LGBT community is never accepted by society, and he saw the trans panic rising up in society right now, this moral panic happening, and he said to himself, now's my opportunity. Although, to be fair, he's been doing this entire time anyway.
Schools and libraries, grooming them for pedophilia. It is time to stop this madness, and I'm standing here to say I'm committed to lead the way. I'm pledging to you that with God's help, I will end this demonic assault on our school children in Texas.
Absolutely disgusting, dude. It doesn't get more disgusting than that, in my opinion. Although it gets pretty bad. There's more. Before we continue, I wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to subscribe to me on YouTube, sign up at my Patreon, check out my Teespring, and I have some other channels that I release videos on. I have my Telltale channel where I release long-form breakdowns of religious stuff. I have my Telltale Fireside chat channel where I get into politics. And I have my Telltale Unfiltered channel, where I do long-form stream breakdowns of televangelists, religious figures, political figures, that type of thing. So check that out if you're interested. Also, don't forget to sign up with my email list. I don't want there to be a situation where YouTube or Twitch or any other social media platform completely removes me and I don't have a connection to you guys. So if you want to follow my email list, you'll get uncensored, complete, ad-free releases of some of my videos every single week. So check it out. A link is in the description to that, or you can just go to telltaleatheist.com/subscribe. Mid-June 2015, he calls into this radio show, I think is what this is, or maybe this is on his podcast, I don't remember. Listen to what he had to say here.
These folks send in their activists with their lawyers when they find there's a Christian who's principled and not willing to participate in any kind of sanctioning of same-sex marriage, and they sue them.
Okay, so this is how he's portraying it. He's saying when a gay person discovers that there's somebody that's not okay with gay marriage, they sue them. He's not specifying a judge or a magistrate or a clerk or something who has a legal obligation to sign a marriage certificate in a legal state. He didn't specify that. He said when a gay person finds somebody who doesn't like gay marriage, they sue them. That's what he's saying here. Anything he can do to whip his audience into a blood frenzy, freak them out, make them think that they're being targeted personally, and they are at risk of being sued out of existence, sued for every penny that they own. Anything he can do to convince them of that, he'll do it.
Them until they go into bankruptcy. In fact, the New Mexico Supreme Court, in ruling on the case there, said that participating in the sanction of same-sex marriage was the, quote, price of citizenship in the United States.
Okay, what? A New Mexico court said participating in a gay wedding is the price of citizenship in the U.S.? I'm sorry, man. I just need a little evidence for this. This guy's actually on a list of, God, what's it called? Is it hate preachers? I don't remember exactly what the list is called, but the Southern Poverty Law Center has a big list of basically hate preachers, people who spread hateful, divisive rhetoric intentionally with no other purpose but to hurt others. And he is on the list. Has been for years. His church is a hate group. That's the word I was looking for. He's on the Southern Poverty Law Center's list of hate groups. He runs a hate group.
So we know what's coming, and we're simply being preemptive and saying, no matter what the cost, we understand and we waive the cost. We are not going to bow. We're not going to bend, and if necessary, we will burn.
Okay, that's interesting. So that could mean one of two things as far as I can tell. He says he's willing to burn. Either A, that means he thinks that he is at risk of being like burned at the stake like a witch, probably the most likely one, but the alternative possible meaning is he thinks that he's going to burn in hell if necessary to oppose gay marriage, i.e., I don't care if God doesn't like it that I'm opposed to gay marriage. I'm going to burn in hell if that's what it takes. I'm going to oppose gay marriage anyway. Either way, that's psychotic, man. That is just unhinged from reality. How do you get to the point where you would be willing to say something like, I am willing to burn before I support gay marriage? That's nuts. That is absolutely nuts. He also went on a televangelist program named Andrew Womack. Couldn't remember his name for a second. Andrew Womack is on the Victory Network, I believe, which is a network owned and operated by Kenneth Copeland, kind of like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel. It's one of those. It's on TV, you know, direct TV and everything. So Andrew Womack is on there, and he got Rick Scarborough on to talk to his massive audience of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, who knows how many millions. I don't know how many people watched. But listen to what Rick Scarborough had to say on this program, late March 2022. He lays out his plans for us.
We've been there until 2016, but increasingly moving toward the purple. So these...
Talking about Texas and the trends that the voting is taking. Over the past 6 or so years, it's been moving more blue or purple. It's getting more and more Democrat as time goes on. Although I think in this last election, it kind of leaned more red than it had been.
Purple. So these men who formerly underwrote our ministry called me back from Washington and said, do it again. So that's what we're doing now. RecoverAmerica.com is an effort to once again march across Texas, find 1,000 preachers who will stand up, speak up, and refuse to give up, give them the tools, work with anybody who'll work with us. But we're intending for this election cycle to create a pattern that can be duplicated all across America of pastor involvement.
Now, I play this to show you that there are people out there that are getting politically involved, that are doing things that if you don't do, they will be there to take your place. If you don't get out there to vote, they'll be there voting. If you don't get out there to get to school board elections, they will be. If you're not there to speak up and take your 2 minutes of time to give the school board a piece of your mind, they will be there to take those 2 minutes for you. If you aren't there to knock on doors and picket and protest and all of it, they'll be there doing it in your place. It's important to remember that. Listen to this one, mid-July 2022.
Get all the Christian kids out you can as quick as you can.
Out of schools is what he's saying.
Take a building like this and start a Christian school. Form a co-op with other groups. Or let homeschoolers meet here and provide some type of recreation for those kids. Get as many kids out of public schools as we can today.
So he wants to get all of the Christian kids out of public schools, right? Okay. That's a terrible idea, but all right, whatever.
But send seasoned adults into those schools as teachers, administrators, and put them on our school boards. Why should we give this over to a lost world that hates God?
Okay, this world does not, quote-unquote, hate God. We just want to be left alone to live our lives. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want you to be left alone to live your life. That's what he's saying right now. He wants to impose his beliefs upon you and your children. You know how he's always complaining about saving the children? They're indoctrinating children. They're trying to take their minds, blah, blah, blah. That is literally what he's doing. That's literally what he is endorsing right now. He is saying we should send teachers and administrators into public schools to take over the school boards, to change the curriculums, to teach to the kids to slip messages in covertly as much as humanly possible. Get your kids out. We're not doing this for our kids. We're doing it for non-believers' kids. We are trying to indoctrinate them. We are setting out to brainwash other people's kids. That's what he's saying. That is literally what he's been complaining about this entire time. And he's telling his people at his church to do exactly that. It's like I was listening to this thing from Kirk Cameron the other day, from Growing Pains. Dude was talking about how libraries hold shows like Drag Queen Story Hour or whatever, right? And he's so upset by that he's going to go to libraries and hold book reading events where he indoctrinates children with Christian stuff. I mean, this is almost word for word what he said. I'm not quoting him exactly. I'm paraphrasing. So you're sitting there complaining about people doing something that's not even happening in the first place. So you decide to go do it. This is the bit. This is the plan. This is the idea. Create a pretext that justifies brainwashing children. They're brainwashing kids, so we have to brainwash them back. Even when that's not happening, they just found their pretext to brainwash children. That is literally what this guy is doing right now. And if you aren't there picketing, if you aren't there protesting, if you're not there taking your 2 minutes at the school board meeting, he will be. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Doctors first called it GRID in 1981 before renaming it AIDS in 1982, but damage was done and it was colloquially called gay disease. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow, that's sad. Thank you for the information on that. Yeah, Ronald Reagan, in my opinion, committed full-blown genocide at the time. He turned his face away and let it play out. Didn't help anybody, didn't try to come up with a cure, nothing. He just let it rip through communities and ravage people's lives. Just disturbing, disgusting stuff. Reagan is a murderer as far as I'm concerned, and committed genocide on the LGBT community, without a doubt. Reagan is an absolutely disgusting person as far as I'm concerned.